I always go in with hope in my eye. Welcome to the Less Than a Day podcast. Don't ask us to explain the name. We're not going to. I'm Kay.
I'm Kiko.
And we're here to talk about books, movies, TV shows, geeky things. Major spoiler warnings, specifically for if you've read the title Fourth Wing, but also for every piece of media ever created. So let's kick things off with our first segment. Current events, which is where we catch each other up on the stuff we've been watching or reading or playing over the past week or month since recording. So, what you been up to, Kiko?
I've been watching a show called The Majorca Files, and it's a procedural show that takes place in Majorca.
Where is Majorca?
Is it like off the coast of Spain? Wait, let's fact check this.
You know what?
Let's check ourselves before we wreck ourselves.
That's so American of you to just not know, but I don't know either.
Island in Spain. I knew it.
Wow.
I can't believe you doubted me like that. Do you see that? Geography.
Yeah, she won the geography bee game.
Yeah, absolutely. The Majorca Files, look, it's not great. Let me tell you right now, it's not great. The stories, the crimes, there's no depth to any of them. If the main character dies, I don't think I'd care.
Okay, so like on a scale of Nate the Great level of complexity to NCIS to Sherlock, where does it rank?
In between Nate the Great, what was the other one? What was your second?
NCIS.
NCIS. It's in between there.
Okay.
So yeah, there's like the writing of the show. And then the acting is deplorable. It's so bad.
Are they just like overly dramatic or they're like wooden?
They're a little wooden. And especially, you forget about the main characters, the side characters, the people who are like the new characters who are introduced in each episode because it's a procedural, right? Like those characters, you know, it's extremely wooden. Yeah, I look at the show and I think I could be a great actor. I could do this.
Why do you watch it though?
Look, you put it on and your brain turns off. Your eyes are watching it. The information gets processed. I don't know how to explain it. It gets like reflected back right into the back of your eye or something. But like it doesn't connect to the brain. So like I see it, but I don't.
Head empty, no thoughts.
Head empty, no thoughts. Yeah, it's that type of show. But like I'm on season 2.
That is, considering how bad you say it is, that is a full season more than I would have watched.
It's not like even a full season, right? It's just, but they like renewed the show by like.
That's crazy. Is it like a popular show?
I have no idea. It's on Freevee.
Well.
So I feel like I should finish it for science, for research, for you guys. You're welcome.
I mean, nobody asked.
No,
like,
and
truly?
I probably will not be talking about this in the next episode.
Yeah. Oh, so I have some show updates. Very briefly, I'm going to talk about The Boys season 4. I think it was. Yeah, season 4 just came out. The Boys season 4 and season 3 of The Bear, both of which came out semi-recently. I finished both of them, and I have the exact same thoughts about both, where it was just a lot of build-up that went absolutely nowhere. Truly the television equivalent of edging. Nothing happened. We just kept going and going and going, and you're like, yes, assassination plot, let's go. You're like, yes, restaurant review, let's go, and nothing. At least The Boys ended on like the very last episode. A whole bunch of shit happened all at once, and it was like, okay, was this worth all the waiting? Maybe not, but at least there was like something happened to advance the plot forward. And so we're setting up for the next season. The Bear was just so much of like, they're introducing interpersonal conflicts. They're introducing like, you know, economic strain. They're introducing so many crises that each of these characters are facing, and then they just don't go anywhere. It's just like a pressure pot. The whole thing about The Bear is that they're always stressed all the time, but it's, even though that's, I think, the point, it's kind of frustrating as a viewer to watch it and then end on a cliffhanger where you have absolutely no idea at all, despite all the build-up. There's no payoff. And so it's frustrating. Like, yeah, joke's on you, wait for the next season. It kind of sucks. And same with The Boys, where every episode felt like they were introducing something new, and it just did not get the payoff that I expected or wanted. I know, like, both of these shows, I think the whole seasons just felt like filler. And for me, that was a little bit disappointing. So my other current event is I finished reading a book, A Fate of Wrath and Flame by K.A. Tucker. And I'm just saying that A Discovery of Witches needs to move over. So, for context, this book was marketed to me as an isekai, right? I read the summary and I was like, damn, because the whole plot was supposed to be this concept of this thief from New York gets transported to another world and she has to, save the world or something. But it's an isekai. It's an isekai. And so it's got to be good. And the book really starts off on a strong note. We start off with world building. We start off with a potential villain, question mark, anti-hero, question mark. We meet our main character and she is a thief. She does start off by stealing and then failing to steal something as she's supposed to do. And so there's so much buildup. She gets transported to this fantasy land. And I'm like, okay, she's told by this mysterious lady, like, I'm going to send you to this place and I need you to take this stone from a garden, right? And you're like, okay, it's heist time. She's a thief in the modern world. She's taken to this fantasy land to steal this stone. Like, she's a jewel thief, I see it. Like, going from A to B. I get the plot here. And so it sounds like, okay, she's going to get transported into somebody's body. Is she going to be like a maid? Because the lady tells her, well, you're going to have to earn their trust. I'm like, okay, is she going to be a maid and like find an opportunity to sneak in? Is she going to like get transported into the body of like a castle guard and like work through the ranks or something? Like, no, she gets transported to a princess. Okay. And I'm like,
okay. Like, that's not new. That's not new. I mean, yeah, they get reincarnated into rich nobles all the time. This is going to be good.
This is going to be good. Princess. Okay. Win the trust, political machinations. It's time. And then she gets imprisoned. Okay, she does get caught.
She's gonna work her way out of prison. It's getting exciting.
It is exciting because turns out this princess died the instant that, this thief is taking over her body because she poisoned the king and queen of the country and they're dead. And so she's been caught. And so the castle guards catch her and they take her to prison. You're like, okay, she's a thief, prison break time. And it starts that way. But she gets caught again. And then she stays in prison for weeks and weeks and weeks. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, hold on, nothing's happening. Hold on. Hello? She's pacing back and forth in her room? Question mark? We're getting so much lore building and context as like other characters are explaining the rules of the world. They're like, okay, we're 60% of the book and nothing has happened. Okay. And then all this build up and we're like, okay, she's going to work her way, earn trust, and then break into this garden, steal this jewel. Except one of the characters explains to her that there is no jewel and that taking the stone means two immortals go on this stone and try to make babies. And it's basically magical IVF.
It is the dodecahedron, or they thought the dodecahedron was from the Mighty Nine.
And at that point, my soul left my body, and I was the one isekai into a timeline where I hadn't read this book, a timeline in which I wish I couldn't read. At that point, I was truly so done. I was like, we are almost at the end of this book and nothing has happened. And there is no heist. There's just her and this immortal vampire king having sex on a rock. And I didn't know what to expect. And so I was I didn't expect this. At the point, I'm like, okay, this book was not written, I think, for me as a fan of isekai and a fan of fantasy.
You could think of it, you could take it another way. It could be like another form of creativity. You would have never. Plot twist. Is that not one of the best plot twists you've ever heard?
But at that point, I was like, okay, maybe the point of this is that it's supposed to be a romance. This is supposed to be erotica. It's supposed to be spicy or something. Okay, let's look at it through that lens. And there is, a love interest. But why is it the most boring romance I've read in a long time? They waste several scenes of her just admiring how muscular he is. Like, there's a whole scene where she's just looking outside the room that she's captured in, watching him fight, like, shirtless and admiring his muscles. And I'm like, brother, you are a prisoner. Do something. But so much of the book,
like a modern girl in like those sort of times, I would be freaking
Oh, the
out.
21st century, I have never seen one muscle. And a bicep, what is this?
What of her like life at home? Like what happens to that?
I have
I
no
guess she
idea.
wouldn't have much of a life. I mean, does she as a thief?
That's the thing. They built up this whole thing like she's involved potentially with a mob. There's so much shit. There's so much build up. But this romance is so like she spent so much of the book trying to convince us the reader why it's okay for her to be attracted to this man even though he sucks blood, and is like really creepy in some ways, and she's just like, no, you don't understand. Does he have human tributaries who he forces to come to his bedroom so he can suck their blood? Yes, but actually he's a good guy king and he wants to abolish this tributary system. We're like, all right girl, I understand.
But he's still actively partaking in it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know. And him, I can't wrap my brain around how he would be attracted to her, because eventually he does believe that she doesn't know anything about her former life, and like she was not the one who killed his parents. But being attracted to the person who you saw kill your parents is just there's no chemistry between them. The spicy scenes are incredibly formulaic and boring. Like, if this was meant to be a romance novel and not like a fantasy isekai thing, then it fails at that too. Like, romantasy is supposed to have fantasy and romance, and you can focus more on the fantasy or you could focus more on the romance, but you can't just do neither. You can't, okay? You have to pick at least one. But it did none of that. I was 92% of the way through the book when the plot finally started happening. And in the last 5% of the book, everything finally comes collapsing in on them. And she reveals who she is, that she's from New York, in the dumbest way. She just spits it at him, and they just, as they're running, and I'm like, there was so many ways this could have been handled.
Like, wait, no, I need to, whoa, rewind. What do you mean? She just says, I'm from New York, and he's like, New York? The Statue of Liberty?
No, he doesn't know what that means. He doesn't know what that means, but there's no like reveal scene. There's no like, she just tells him and then they move on. Like I'm just like, brother,
New York is? Does he think it's like a little town like at the edge
I
of the
don't
kingdom?
know. I don't know, but it's fucking stupid. And I put that book down like, oh my god, what the literally, speaking of the metaphorical, equivalent of edging, but as a book this time.
Lots of edging in this
episode. There's a lot of edging. Yeah, and we'll get to that. But this was really bad. This was really, really bad. And it's shocked me how popular this book is. Truly. I'm like, did I have a different experience? Because I can't. If you read the synopsis, right?
The synopsis, like,
the synopsis
so
has
promising.
Yes, so promising. Has only one line about the romance, right? Only one line about this king who potentially hates her. So you're like, okay, like we have all the elements here. This author just dropped the ball in every way possible. Like, so poorly written. I have read better manhwa that do the isekai trope better than this. I'm sorry. I don't know. I cannot like de-recommend a book more than I de-recommend it. Like, don't fucking touch it. Like, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for taking one for the team.
I saved you because I did take this bullet for you. So you should be thanking me a lot more.
I can be your hero baby, Enrique Iglesias.
Disgusting. Okay, moving on. So I think that's it for our current events. Let's talk about our main topic, which is
Fourth Wing
by
Rebecca Yarros.
Yes.
We're extremely
late to the game here.
Yes.
Well, to be fair, I read it
it's
6 months ago.
It's no, you read it late, but I read it even later, right?
I read it late, but I think I read Iron Flame like when it came out.
Okay, you were up on the hype, and I read Fourth Wing, didn't want to, and I read a really solid like plot point by plot point review of Iron Flame. So
we're up to date.
Yeah, we're up to date.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard of Fourth Wing, it's like an incredibly popular new adult series. It's like the big it thing in romantasy right now. We're going to give like the briefest of summaries. I would say if you really, really want to read it, because there is a plot there. So if you're interested in it, read it. We're just going to give you the basics of what you would need to know to understand what Fourth Wing is all about. Huge spoiler warnings. I said it already, but I'm saying it again. Okay, so take it away.
Okay, so our main character, Violet, is basically forced into this war college called the Basgiath War College, where these kids like train to become like dragon riders and stuff. And you can die if you fail, basically. It's graduate or die, and that is on the
think
cover
like
of the
only
book.
25% of them survive.
Yeah, Hermione would love this. Anyways, yeah, so she's forced by her mother. Violet originally wants to become a scribe. That doesn't happen. So she gets into this war college. She eventually actually starts succeeding because she uses her like scribe knowledge and stuff. And she manages to survive the training, and she bonds with two dragons. Terran, a large black dragon, and Andarna, a small golden adolescent dragon. And this has never happened before, the two dragon thing.
She is
so
the chosen
people
one.
are super jealous, super angry, all the negative emotions. And on top of that, there's another student at the college.
He's an older student,
An older
second year.
student. He's like a leader of one of the wings, which are like
like units.
the units, yes. And he hates Violet because her mom, the general, executed his father with his friend's parents as well because they were part of a rebellion a couple years ago. But Zayden's dragon, Sagail, is mated with Taryn. And so, yeah, there's like a bond and stuff.
They're forced to take care of each other because if he dies, she dies. And if she dies, he dies. So he hates her. But
because the dragons will be affected by the writer's death.
yes. So he hates her, but they have to try to help each other survive.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, she starts getting training from whatever. And and eventually Violet discovers her signet power, which is a power manifested from the bond between the dragon and the writer. And hers is lightning powers.
Her and every other romantasy heroine. Literally.
Kelsey.
Lord, where you at?
Right. And eventually they receive an assignment to go to this small like village, town, something.
Yeah, it's like part of their war games. They're assigned to go to some town, and then it turns out it's a trap because Xaden and his friends are actually rebels. They're helping like the enemy kingdom of Griffin riders.
Yeah, and Violet is like super upset by this, but understands the plight of the rebels, what they're doing, because the kingdom is not actually doing anything to. They're keeping stuff, and they're like lying to the people.
There is this threat of the Venin, who are like, I guess they're just like evil dragon riders. Basically they ride wyverns, and so they absorb I know. Listen, they absorb life force and magic, and they are just generally menaces, and they're trying to break into the kingdom, so they're terrorizing this neighboring kingdom. And so Xaden and his rebel friends are basically trying to stop this encroaching threat of the Venin, which the kingdom does not want because they're very isolationist, protect ourselves first. So they're not interested in letting down their wards to help the neighboring kingdom, even though they're suffering. And so Violet, being the good person that she is like, I'll help.
Violet and Xaden eventually do obviously
have a relationship,
like develop a relationship, and so this is like sort of marks like a breaking point. They're on a break, but Violet does join the rebel side.
Yeah, so the book ends with Violet getting injured in that fight with the Venin. They take her to surprise her brother, who she thought was dead and killed in the war where Xaden's father led the rebellion. Like, he died in that war, but turns out her brother survived and is one of the main leaders of this rebel organization. And he's a healer, so he heals her.
You know what sucks? I think it sucks that like none of like Xaden's family survived, right? And but like Violet gets her like,
brother back.
She still has a mom and a sister and a like at that point, like she had a mom, a sister, and like now she gets her brother back. So I think that kind of sucks. But all of like the other kids, like their parents are dead.
Yeah. So the second book, Iron Flame, kind of delves with Violet dealing with this sudden realization that Xaden is involved in the secret rebellion. Her brother is involved in the secret rebellion. Her childhood best friend, Dane, has the ability to read minds, and he's very like pro-empire, pro-war college. And so they're all concerned that he's going to read her mind and find all of this out.
Yeah, throughout the first book, Fourth Wing, Dane's like real shady, right?
Yeah.
But he's like kind of irrelevant, but he's like there in the background, but he's like a fly in your ear.
I think there was like an attempt to make him sort of like a love triangle, but he was so repulsive as a character, it just didn't work.
Yeah, and like Violet found him repulsive too.
Yes.
She was smart about that. But yeah.
So a lot of this book is super irrelevant. I'm going to skip over a lot of it, but basically the book starts off where Violet and Xaden are sort of fighting about, she wants him to tell her everything, and he's like, you can still get your mind read, I'm not telling you shit. It's a lot of back and forth fighting. In the War College, she has graduated on to her second year, so all of the training that she had to go through the first year, she's watching as a second year, as a new series of people are attempting that same training. And at the same time, she's also going through interrogation training, which is where the college has a bunch of classes where they try to teach you to withstand interrogation, except hers is a little bit more real because the professors are actively trying to extract the information about
It's like
Xaden.
an evil general that's trying to
Evil general, you know how it is. So blah blah blah. Eventually she does get caught. They torture her. They try to get the information, and Xaden flies back, and they all break out of War College. They drop a truth bomb on the whole college of like, hey, this is what's happening outside the walls. You're gonna die because they're not gonna protect you. So I think it's like a third or a half of the college flies with her, and they go to like the rebel base camp. Her sister, who was a lieutenant or like some high-ranking student, also flies in with a whole group of her platoon or whatever, and they start formulating a plan of how to set up a new set of wards to protect the other kingdoms as well. And so it's a lot of the book is Violet figuring out how to activate a new set of wards. Eventually she realizes that it takes 7 dragons to do it, and there's only one of the 7th type of dragon, that's Andarna, her dragon, so they can only set up one set of wards. They recruit a bunch of Griffin riders, so irrelevant, and they try to negotiate with the Venin for some fucking reason, and they realize it's a trap, obviously, and the Venin attack the War College, and the War College's wards go down. So Violet has the choice of, do I set up the ward here at the rebellion and protect this whole kingdom and accomplish what we were trying to do from the start, or do I go back and fix the wards of my kingdom and the War College and protect everyone there? And eventually she decides that it's going to be the War College, so she does that. At the same time, during that last battle where she's setting up these wards, Xaden channels a little bit too much power to give her time and turns Venin, and that's where the book ends.
That is so rough, buddy. Truly.
That is so rough. No, I'm telling you.
I read that, I was like, that is so rough, buddy. Your parents are dead, everyone is dead, and that is so you're evil now.
Because it's potentially like permanent. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see in
we
book
don't know
3.
anything about the Venin. Like,
brother, one of my main gripes about this series is that I really don't give a fuck about the Venin. Like, they're so faceless enemies to me. Like, yes, they kill my favorite character. Shout out to Liam. But Liam, my boy.
Liam, my boy, was Violet's like bestie, bodyguard person.
He was Xaden's bestie and assigned to be Violet's bodyguard, but eventually they become friends, and it's like the cutest relationship. And I my heart shattered a little bit when he died, because he was truly, outside of Violet, he was the only character I gave a shit about. Okay, yeah, so let's kick it off with the briefest of overall impressions. Just, how'd you feel about this book?
I read it in one big sitting and a bunch of little sittings.
Mm-hmm.
The first big sitting, I did enjoy it quite a bit. Like, I got through 70% of the book. That's pretty significant for like how chunky.
Oh my god, they're so big.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it, and I was like taking lots of notes and stuff. And then as I was taking my notes, I noticed, oh wow, I'm repeating a lot of the same things on my notes here. But yeah, it was a bit of a drag for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that
that's why I chose not to
read Iron Flame.
Yeah, because I really, really did struggle to finish Fourth Wing.
Each of these books is like 600 pages long, and it does not need to be that long. It does not need to be that long. Like,
it's a waste of my interest.
I think for me, that overall, I liked it. I think that there's some serious writing problems. It being a drag, honestly, is so true. Since we're talking about, the metaphorical edging, this book is, Fourth Wing is so guilty of this. Honestly, so is Iron Flame, where they're building. Like the first half when Violet is surviving all the training and building to get a dragon, and you're like, okay, we're going somewhere. She gets the dragon, you're like, sweet, are we gonna do something now? Is the plot starting? Nah, it's back to classes, except now there's flight training, and oh my god.
Same fucking scene. It's the same fucking scene over and over and over again. And she just keeps falling off her thing. I could give less of a shit if she like died and splatted on the ground. Could care less.
Oh my god, I would skip pages for that.
Yeah, I honestly that would have been the most interesting thing that happened. Like I don't want that to happen to Violet because I like her as a character, but it would be entertaining, you know? It'd be like the most entertaining thing that happened in that book.
The only thing I will say is that as much of a drag as some of the classes are, I do appreciate that they are relevant. Like the training that they do in that wall that they have to try to succeed at, the wipeout wall, that actually comes back up in Iron Flame as they're like scaling the cliff, where she has to try to help the Griffin Riders like do the same thing that she did. It comes up again, but by God, is it such a pain to read.
Yeah, and it's not like anything. Like we were watching an episode of Psych last night, the police training episode. It's the same situation. Yeah. It's like nothing new.
Yeah.
Yes, your wipeout course comes up later.
Yeah, a lot of it could have been cut, I think.
There's nothing new enough about this book except for like the characterization of Violet that draws me to this.
Yeah. It was, I think, what I said the first time that I read it. And I do want to preface this because we are starting off on a really negative note. I do want to preface this with I still liked it. I would recommend, I don't know if I'd recommend this book to everybody, but I would say that, okay, I'll put it this way. I liked this book. I don't think it was the best thing that's ever been written. I think that when I first finished it, I think the first thing I told you was like, it's good, but it's like a series of cliches strung together and book bound. Like truly, there's absolutely nothing about the plot itself that's special. I think there's a couple of things that the book does really special that I think I have not seen that often in other books, which we can talk about, but overall, there's nothing new about it. And honestly, there were so many bits that dragged, since that's what we were talking about. Like the second book, the bit with the Griffin Riders where they're all relearning.
Okay, that's so,
oh my
God. They leave the fucking war college and we're like, fucking finally, we don't have to go to fucking classes. They take us through fucking classes. Yeah, and then they go to the fucking rebellion.
Yes.
And they go to class again.
That's what I'm saying, brother. It's the edging. It's like, yes, interrogation. Okay, we're going somewhere. He broke into the war college. They're all having a mass exodus. Oh my God, everything's gonna change. Classes. Oh my God.
And people die in those classes, right? Like if you're gonna waste like
lives,
your children soldiers, your child soldiers like that, because that's what they are. A lot of them are minors. Are they?
Yeah, well they're in their 20s, but early 20s.
I mean, like
they're
2 years away from
so
adult,
much
right?
casual death. Yes,
the author's like discarding them, or whatever. The people in the college are discarding them. If you're gonna treat them like that, you might as well make use of them. Like in war or in other efforts.
I think I don't know.
That's such like a waste of like resources. I know it's such like a cold thing to say, but I feel like that's.
I mean, I don't know. Was that supposed to be commentary on how we send our kids to die in pointless wars? It was Rebecca Yarros playing 4D chess.
Yo, maybe Rebecca Yarros was.
And we might be reading into that, but
yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Violet, though, I will say that one of the things that this book has going for it, and this is a controversial take because a lot of people dislike her, but I think Violet is one of the better characters that I've read.
I think Violet is pretty much the best character other than our boy Liam. But
because I think it's very easy to say that your main character is smart, but it's much harder to show it in practice. And at least for the first half of Fourth Wing, I think she did a pretty good job of Violet being clever enough to survive when she had a disadvantage. And oh my God, did she have a disadvantage?
Yeah. And it's like a real disadvantage too.
Yeah. She has not been training her whole life like some of these people have. She was supposed to be the equivalent of a librarian. And on top of that, she has chronic pain. And on top of that, she is much smaller than most of the people who go into this war college. So she is a true underdog, and I think that the book does a good job of showing how she uses her brains and skills to overcome challenges.
And her position as the daughter of a high-ranking general works against her. It doesn't go in her favor at all.
The reverse of nepotism, truly.
Yeah, she reversed nepotisms. She instead of parachuting, she crash lands.
I will say that the poisoning bit goes on way too long. People really did catch on.
There's training in the gym or whatever, and they have opponents and they fight every
There's
week
sparring matches.
Yeah, sparring matches. And she poisons every single one of her opponents beforehand. And you know what? That's smart. But how in the hell were people just not catching on?
If she had done it once or twice, great. At least she was smart enough to vary it every time. But truly.
she advances enough. She like raises up
The
like ranks
ranks,
and
yeah.
stuff, right? Like so it was significant enough. So
Yeah, they should have caught her way sooner or at all.
the only thing Zayden has going for him is that he figured it out. And he was
Oh
like,
my god.
he was like, brother, do you think no one would notice?
Okay, let's talk about Zayden because
Zayden, controversially to us, I actually was liking. Kay had already finished Fourth Wing, and I was reading Fourth Wing, and I was like, "Yo, I don't see what you have against Zayden. He's aight." He's like,
Okay.
all right, because he said a lot of things that like I wanted to say to Violet. He would say the things that I was thinking about Violet. He'd be like, "You didn't think people would notice this," or like blah 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 blah, and then like all of that like just stopped mattering because then he just became not great.
honestly, my I think that Zayden is a complex character, which is good because a lot of these like love interest characters can be very one note. Like the archetypical sexy, snarky, horny.
Yeah, he is that, but he also has other notes.
Yeah, I think but the problem for me is that his other note is asshole.
Yeah,
And he's so condescending. And so for me personally, I just found him very frustrating until Iron Flame. Like Fourth Wing, I low key hated his guts. Zayden is still one of my least favorite characters, but at least he's interesting to read.
yeah, that's the thing because we didn't get to spend that like I guess we did spend time with them in the class. It was like very one note like spending time with the other characters, but like Zayden is obviously like the love interest, so we saw more of him. So he was like he was more interesting to like I knew more about him than other characters,
Like,
obviously.
I absolutely bought that she hated him, right? I think the problem for me is that this is one of the best examples of an enemies to lovers because they both have such legitimate reasons to hate each other. And in those first few chapters, they really do hate each other. Although, apparently, when you read his POV, I don't remember this, but I saw when he saw her, he did think she was attractive. But they do hate each other and you can feel it. And I think the problem for me is that he's very mean to her.
And then all she thinks.
Is how hot he is.
Yeah.
But the problem for me is that I'm really petty and I hold grudges. So you can't make me hate a character and then expect me to continue to like them
Yeah.
just because Violet thinks he's hot. I still fucking hate him.
Yeah, like and there was maybe one or two characters that I cared enough about to like not even hate like but like intensely dislike. Yeah, this is another thing I want to talk about. I don't know if you compare this to like other fantasy books, where is the characterization of the other characters? We really only like get I was Violet, Zayden,
Liam,
yeah, Liam,
Sloane for that matter.
yeah,
Liam's
Sloane
sister
and Iron Flame,
in Iron Flame.
and
yes.
then
Mira, I think a little bit. Mira and Brennan both definitely have personalities. Mira
Yeah.
a little bit less so, but Brennan is a complex character for sure. I think that the characters that we spend a lot of time
like the
with.
dragons too.
Oh, the dragons also get like personalities.
except for the
Scale.
yeah, the Zayden's dragon.
Well, we
she's
also can't-
honestly kind of even more side character than
Yeah, but we also don't get to see her POV at all, so
Yeah,
that
that-
makes
that-
sense.
that's-
Because Zayden is the only one who can talk to her. I will say that a lot of the friend characters feel very one note. Like they feel like their purpose is to be Violet's friend, but that changes a lot. I think in Iron Flame because she's spending more time with her friends and less time like being obsessed with Zayden.
it's more like friends as a collective, not friends as individuals. Like it's just
Yes.
the individual
I would
collective.
say other than Rhiannon, like
No, even Rhiannon.
Rhiannon
maybe
is
I didn't read
very
Iron.
one note in the first book, but I think they do a little bit to develop like her emotions
motivations
and her
and stuff?
motivations and her development.
Okay.
They're not a lot, not to the point where she's like one of my favorites or anything like that.
Bare
But
minimum for this supposedly people hyped this book
Yeah.
up. So like that's probably why I was also so disappointed about it because I thought it was
you
such
know what?
because like so much fantasy like their world building is incredible. Like their
No,
characters
this is world
feel
building
like
light for sure.
characters.
This is a character driven story, and honestly, there have been times where I prefer character driven stories in favor of world building simply because I would rather read about an argument two characters are having than reading 10 pages about a description of the third tree you see on the side of the road. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but looking at you, Tolkien. But not to say that Fourth Wing is better.
We still
That's not even
no,
close.
that's not
But I will say that the characters that you spend a lot of time with and the characters that really, really matter to the story are really well developed. They are complicated. They are interesting. Even Violet's mom, I think, got her moment.
yeah.
So even though I thought initially that she was very one note, like she got development. The ones that you care about really, really, I think, are some of the better written characters I've seen in a lot of fantasy.
Yeah, but it's like such a high, like it's such a gap, you know?
Yeah.
It's
No.
such a gap.
It's literally like playing with a party and the whole world is filled with NPCs.
You know, it's like me on my DS, my Pokemon White 2 or something. And my bird, what is that? Oh, whatever, the bird Pokemon. It's like level 60 something or whatever. And the rest are like level 14s. Like that is what we're talking about here. And this is why I don't think I don't think to this day I've still finished the like defeated
You
the
know
last
what?
gym leader,
The thing
Iris
I
or
took
whatever.
from that is that you're playing Pokemon, right? But
No, I absolutely did. No question about it.
but yeah,
Look, Fly just it destroyed my opponents, okay?
Okay,
I just used
okay.
Fly over and over, and then I would run out of
You-
Fly, and then I would be screwed.
that okay. So much of what you just said is so triggering for me, but that's a conversation for later. Like truly,
Yo, I was young back then, okay? I was just a young
That's not an excuse. Yeah, the friends, they were really just there to be there. Truly, they get better in Iron Flame. Some of the characters in Iron Flame,
But like that doesn't excuse it's a book. But like it doesn't excuse me now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it was hyped this much,
it's
like
poor writing for sure.
I have to wait. You have to wait till
Well,
the
honestly,
second
with
book.
600 pages, I really don't know if I could take any more of also learning her, like the complicated relationships of her friends' backstories.
But I'd rather you know what? I'd rather like gossip and stuff like that than the what is it? What did I
History
call it?
class.
The NAFTA. The NAFTA agreement.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of like really, I think, cliche tropes in there too. Like the way that her friends talk to her, a lot of the dialogue is very cliche.
Yeah, it was like, hey, buddy, like
Yeah.
the handshake, pat on the back type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like them turning to her when they had a hyper specific question like, oh, Violet's a smart girl, and so the whole class turning to listen to what Violet had to say made me want to cringe out of existence. Like, brother,
There's so many moments.
it's giving Wattpad high school AU fan fiction. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's rough, buddy. But I will say that, you know, for every boring character, there was, I think, an interesting character development moment for Violet as a character, for Xaden as a character. The highs were, I think, really good for me, at least.
The highs weren't high enough for me to forget about the
To
low.
counteract the rest of it.
Yeah.
I thought that the dragons were really cool.
Yeah,
and
I
they
think the
get their
dragons
own-
were cute. They had like personalities.
Yeah.
They had more yeah, honestly, this is like we keep saying this. It's redundant. But yeah, the dragons had more personality than the friends, in my opinion. But
That's so true. And
like Taryn
and Darna, wait,
and Darna's a little cutie. She's
and
a little
Darna's
cutie
so
patootie.
cute. I loved, like, especially in Iron Flame, the bratty teenager.
She's
was so
such like
funny.
she is such a like teenager going through puberty. She's
I loved
absolutely
it.
that.
And they did some pretty decent world building, I think, in Iron Flame with the dragons and like the origins of the Empire. I honestly wish that the book had focused more on the Empire itself and the kingdom itself being bad than it did the Venom, because truly, who gives a fuck? Like,
Yeah.
that's where we're at. The Griffin Riders in Iron Flame were such an unnecessarily long plot point, and we could have skipped a lot of that.
Yeah, like all the schooling, so much schooling.
Well, no, it's
Skip
not even the
that.
schooling. Like the Griffin Rider characters, I think there's a lot of really cool concepts that came in. Like, oh, hey, these Griffin Riders are different from us, so the way that they learn is going to
Yeah,
be different from how
their
we as
bond or
Dragon
whatever.
Riders
Yeah.
learn. But you know, we're not so different after all. Like we still care about our creatures. Like there could have been a lot more cool bonding moments. I think for me, the problem was there was so much of Xaden's ex. And like she's jealous and she wants Xaden back, and I'm like, brother,
The X is
why?
really
Why?
truly horrible,
Why?
and like we could have had a girl moment,
Like,
you know?
I hate it. Oh, I'll say like another positive for me was I thought the interrogation training was really, really cool.
I liked the concept.
Because yes, you can read it, but I thought it was like an added layer of tension. The whole first half of Iron Flame to me was so good because I loved like the added layer of tension of Violet being afraid that they were going to find everything out. I loved that she as a character does not take a back seat ever. Like Zayden tells her, shut up and stay out of it because they can read your mind. And she literally was like, no, go fuck yourself. And like
I did
works
really
with
like
her
that.
scribe friend to like figure out a different way to bring up the wards.
Like she works. Like she honestly embodies her like scribe training. She doesn't.
Truly. And like the whole heist with her friends where she's like, I know you can't trust them and I know you're afraid, but I'm not gonna be able to do this on my own. So she trusts her friends and like lets them in on the secrets, and like they break into the library, which was colossally stupid. And come on, you should have known you were gonna get caught. Like, come on. But at the same time, I thought that at least she took a swing, you know?
Yeah.
As opposed to like sitting around and waiting for the plot to happen.
This is also a thing. Zayden expects Violet to be sitting around and do nothing, but like Violet's like pretty much the most powerful writer since like ever, right?
Yeah.
She has 2 fucking dragons, okay? One can stop time and one lets her get lightning powers, which is something. But apparently it's super powerful and people are impressed by it. But like people in this book keep treating her like she's super weak, and she is physically, but she's got powers, you know?
Yes. I feel like that's honestly another thing that I liked about it at the very least is that they're acknowledging that she is powerful, because I'm thinking about Crust Lord Reese and like the whole he's the most powerful High Lord.
Are you kidding me? Farrah's got like 15 different like
Farrah basically gets relegated to his wife at one point, but Violet, when she says that Zayden is the most powerful and Taryn makes
that's a pretty good like maybe it's not, but I feel like it's pretty good in comparison. Like in Aquitar, like Farrah is like relegated to his like plaything. She has to like appear as his plaything, like even after she gets all those powers, and like
she
has
never
to
gets her own respect as the curse breaker. She ends up as like, oh, she's the high lady because she's Reese's wife.
Yeah, but like Violet is like, fuck no, I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna put in the work, put in the hours.
And when she says like, oh, Zayden is the most powerful writer, and Taryn says for now, because she literally is still training, but like the acknowledgement, no, you're gonna be stronger than him. For me, that's such a rare thing in books. I'm like, when you have a female lead, I was like, God damn, this is a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I really did like that.
Honestly, the portrayal of women in this book in general, because it's not a book about feminism.
Yeah, it's like they don't like gender does not come into issue, and I really like that.
That was one of, for me, the best parts of the book, and why I kind of understand why it's so popular, was that the characters that are weak because of physical things that they have no control of, that have nothing to do with gender. Like Violet is weak not because she's a woman, she's weak because she's strong and is dealing with her chronic pain, and she doesn't have like the same training as everyone else, and she overcomes that. But the other female characters, there's parts where they're not saying that, oh, they're just as big and strong as the men and so everything is equal. They're saying, no, you are physically weaker, but you have XYZ training, but you're faster in this way, but you're smarter than him, right? When it comes to fighting. So for me, that's such a departure from most fantasy that I've read, even when you have female characters as the main lead, as like the women not being relegated to damsels.
Yeah, and I was never like worried about that either. Because once you got into the book, once even in like the beginning, you realize that this is not her. Gender is not like, it's not an issue. It's
not an issue, and you can show that the world is brutal with 25% of the class surviving without sexual assault. Like,
yeah, Galir is weak because he's Galir.
Truly. Like, it's such a breath of fresh air. And for me, even though there's so many problems with this book and the writing in general, like that was so radically different for me that it makes me be able to power through so much of it.
Yeah, it wasn't enough for me. Like that should be a basic thing.
That should be a basic thing, but for me, that's why I feel like
it was like a breath of fresh air compared to like what I had read. But like it wasn't like,
even Akatar, which is supposed to be hailed as like, oh, strong female characters, is really not when you look at it.
All, yeah.
And so I think that if this is the direction the genre is going, I do like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the writing.
It's the writing, it's a lot of the cliche tropes, it's a lot of the cliche dialogue, it's a lot of the just weird tropes. Like, okay, explain to me why they're getting horny when their dragons are getting
Oh
horny.
my,
That was
right.
so
There is that. So like Violet and Zayden have a bond with their dragons, right? And they're all mated, all connected. The dragons, except for Andarna, she's not part of that. But so when the dragons do the thing, Violet and Zayden feel it too, and it's disgusting. It is weird.
it's one of those scenes where I'm like, this is clearly for someone, but this does not do it for me. Like, oh, we skipped through these scenes. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. Also, like,
Um,
right, Violet's and Zayden's romance did
Yeah,
not
let's talk
buy.
about-
How did that happen?
let's talk about Violet and Zayden's romance.
How did that happen?
Because that is like a huge selling point of this book, right? Is the enemies to lovers, and like I said, I really do think this is one of the better examples
Yeah.
of enemies to
They were
lovers.
so
'Cause they fucking hate
enemies.
each other.
They were so enemies. How do they become lovers? Other than that, Violet thought he was hot, and Zayden
God.
clearly had like some type of weird tension for Violet, even though I don't know. He wanted to kill her, but like obviously he can't now. But like so that should be the conflict. But the conflict is that she's hot and he can't. Again.
I mean, honestly, I don't know. Every time she said his full name, I was gonna projectile vomit.
Oh gosh,
couldn't.
no, yo, people said I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't think violence.
I didn't mind the violence. I think
Okay, I thought it was like fine at first. Violence. Whoa, if she was such a weak fighter, why is she violent? You know, like couldn't she be something else?
like I don't know. There was just so much
didn't make sense,
condescension
though.
with that.
Yeah,
Like,
and he would yell like violence in like the heat of battle while like referring to her. Violet is shorter than violence, and like violence is like a little like it's just like in battle. Like you're using pet names in battle. I'm like K honey, like a fight. Like what's so weird? You don't like in battle. You aren't like honey. Like maintain some professionalism here.
I think that when they got together, for me, it kind of was not. I didn't get it. I really didn't get it. But I will say that there's a lot of show don't tell with their romance, which I do think is good. Where I don't know that he often says "I love you," but there's that part where he brings her like the saddle, like the custom saddle.
Yeah, I do.
And I was like,
yeah,
damn.
That
Okay,
was-
Zayden, I see you.
that was sweet. Yeah, like it was sweet, but I don't know.
There's just a lot of physical attraction, and I kind of see. I think that
like I get their romance, but I don't know how the author thought like their lust would overcome their enemy.
I think that's
status.
the problem with a lot of enemies to lovers is the idea is that you are enemies, but there's enough lust there that you're
because they fall in
overriding.
lust.
They
right?
fall in lust,
and then they fall
in
love supposedly. Because what is it about Zayden? What is it about? I forgot.
I question Violet's
we
choices,
know
but
what Violet's opinion of Zayden is. Like, what was it about Violet that like
attracted
overcame
Zayden.
like that hatred of her mother killing his dad, his family, and his friends' families, and everyone he ever knew, basically.
I'll say that also for me. I know a lot of people did not like Violet and Zayden fighting, and while I don't necessarily think that they had the best build up because I don't understand their attraction to each other and I don't understand why they got together, I will say that once they're together, I think this was a sort of realistic approach to how a relationship would work in that kind of high stress situation where she does not instantly forgive him when he lies, which I've seen happen a lot. Looking at you again, Farah. But she does not forgive him. There is conflict. There is like for the first time that I've seen that approach of, well, you lied to me. How do we build a relationship where we don't have trust? Because it can't just be lust.
And you know what? It really is Violet putting in the effort. Like she gives him so many chances.
She really does.
To tell the truth. And Zayden has the like a mindset of like, we need to.
We'll get there when we get there.
We'll get there when we get there. But the thing is, they're so involved in the plot itself. Like they're in the battle and the war and stuff. They need to like, and their problems are like with the
bigger than them.
Yeah.
So
They needed to work it out. Zayden needed to tell the truth. I get why he didn't tell the truth initially, but like
there's no reason, and they waste
after
so much time.
After they did it for like maybe the first one or even the second time, I don't know. He should have, like, if he had.
No, and honestly, again, a lot of people did not like that they spend the whole first half of the book fighting, but there's even this point where Violet makes this analogy of, like, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but she's like, if you open up like a chest and an axe comes flying at you, right? Wouldn't you want to be sure that there's no more axes in that chest before you open it up again?
Yeah.
And all the other characters, like Zayden's friends, like try to make her feel bad about it. They're like, it's bigger than you. Like, you don't understand. And I'm like, dog, she's involved in the plot regardless. She already knows enough to sink you guys. There's no reason you need to keep keeping this from her.
Another like point is that Zayden's friends becoming her friends, except for like Liam. I don't really buy any.
They don't become her friends. There's a very clear divide between her. She has her friends.
Yeah, but they like sit at her like.
I think it's kind of like because they're his bodyguards. So since she's now a weakness to him.
Yeah, but they become like buddy.
Some of them do. I mean, Liam is the only realistic one, and honestly, their friendship was the highlight of that book.
And you know what? If Zayden had maybe told Violet, we could have had more of our boy Liam, but Liam is deaded because...
No, there was that part where she sees Liam when she's being interrogated. That got me a little. Like, damn. I've said it a million times, man. Good friendships are better than romances.
I
mediocre
agree.
romances. But I don't think their romance was mediocre. I think it was... parts of it were pretty well done. The lows.
I'm talking about like the process, like how they
got there. I think was a little. Is not for me at least. But once they got there, I really did buy that. And another thing is, like, I really bought that Zayden loved her. Like, actually loved her.
I buy that.
Like,
I just don't.
There's that part where he's like, he's trying to convince her to trust him again, and so they can be in a relationship. He's like, "You love me." But he's saying it to himself, like to convince himself that she loves him. And I was like, oh, damn. Vulnerability. You don't get to see that a lot in male leads either. Like, damn. I'm not on his side. A lot of people are on his side, and I'm simply not. And speaking of, let's talk about some of the last plot twists that Iron Flames ends with. Like, Violet forgave him. Fine. Eventually,
like, if they were fighting the whole book, it would have happened.
She forgave him. Because it became a moot point eventually because, they dropped the truth bomb on everybody and everyone flew off from the War College to the rebel camp. So it's whatever, right? The thing that I can't get past is that there's a reveal near the end of Iron Flame that has nothing to do with anything related to, the rebel group, which is that Zayden has two powers. He had the power of shadow that everybody knows about. But then he also has the second power, where he can sort of read minds. Not exactly that way, but he can read intentions, but still a huge violation of privacy for someone that you are dating. And she forgives him, and
it was like, wait, how does he get those powers? Like, he don't got two dragons, does he?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's some foreshadowing that I didn't even catch, where if you bond to a dragon that has bonded to somebody in your family, it can either give you two powers or drive you mad. And so Violet eventually...
Right, his dragon is his dad's dragon, right?
No. I think it's like his grandfather or great-grandfather. Like, it's further up in the line, so nobody really clocks it, but he does have two powers. And has basically had the power to read her mind the whole time.
Right. So, like, if he was reading her mind the whole time, wouldn't he not mind, it's the intention. It's even better. Her intention was pure throughout the book. So he would have known. So he could have told the truth, and Liam could have survived. End of story.
Forget all of that. I just simply could not get past the cringe of my partner knowing my thoughts, and I would have broken up with. I would have killed this man on the spot.
Look, there are secrets.
Nicer than I am.
Secrets that one mustn't know.
What?
Zayden mustn't know.
He's gotta die.
He's gotta die.
He's gotta die. But she forgives him, and I'm like, brother, the relationship is over. There's no way that you can build trust after that. There's just no way.
Yo, what happens to Zayden? Oh, right.
He turns venom.
Not Zayden. I was gonna say Dane. He becomes like good.
He's a good guy eventually.
He's a good guy. what if
If she ends up with
what
Dane,
if
I
the
don't
whole
think
like the
that.
other is this a trilogy?
It is. The third book's coming out.
Hopefully. They ended at the trilogy and they don't do a thing that like other book series do and make it not become a trilogy. But what if, just saying here, what if like the whole thing of book 3 is that like, yeah, Zayden's fighting against whatever his venom inside or however the hell it works, and that's the whole like whatever their, what is it called, conflict, right? That's like the whole conflict. And then Zayden does like a little sacrifice, right? He sacrifices himself, and then Dane and Violet end up together because Dane,
that's
they
worse.
redeemed Dane, right? Like
That's worse.
what if they plot twisted like that?
Disgusting.
But I would hate that because why? Because Dane's still nasty.
But they're back together at the end of the book. Like she low key. I don't know how much
Like
she
how
has.
does being
'Cause we
venom
haven't-
work again? Like do you just go crazy or you still
Brother,
you just got venom powers?
think you're. Yeah, I think
Because like
it's like a
when they were
it's sort
fighting
of
the venom, they
bloodlust.
seemed a little
lucid. Yeah, but
they seemed like still like they
crazy.
yeah they seemed like they were too much. Like they weren't really processing like what they just liked the
I
fight.
guess we'll see more. And I mean, speaking of cliches, like literally, it's just Dimitri becoming Strigoi. Like we've been there, we've seen
been there,
that.
done that.
Like, is Violet a better character than Rose? No, but I love my girl Rose. Dimitri is a predator, but that's different. Yeah, I just I think is gonna end up with like this ends with a happily ever after with her and Zayden, and I think that that's crazy, but I also understand that it's like a high stress situation and they have so many other problems right now.
Yeah, they didn't need to add that.
I
Like, you know,
I will say that the dialogue of how long does it take for someone to stop being in love with you was some good shit. But
it is rough, buddy.
it is rough, buddy.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I have no forgiveness because despite all of Iron Flame, I'm still not sold on Zayden. Like, I still think he's a well-written character. I just don't like him. So,
Yeah. Oh, also, there's this. God, I don't know why. Like, there's this random character named Jack Barlow who is like Violet's enemy from like day one. Jack hates the guts like out of Violet for I don't know reasons. But yeah, he's evil. And then we thought Violet kills him, but it turns out he's alive. So he comes back in book 2. But then he like helps them ? But then turns out he's actually a bad guy. But at the end, Zayden asks Jack Barlow for a cure, like Vampire Diary style, like a cure for being venom. That's so like a cure. They're gonna get the cure.
We'll have to see. I think I will be reading the next book though. Like I enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, will it be what if we did something? What if you surprised me with the plot of book 3?
If I surprised you with the plot of book 3?
Yeah. Well, like this happened. No. I'm gonna read the plot summary. I won't read the book, but
yeah, we'll talk about it when it comes out. Okay, so like as we're closing the discussion on Fourth Wing, right? You have any final thoughts?
No, I've said all I need. I haven't said all I needed to say, but like more than like 13 pages of notes. It's not gonna make it on here. I'm sorry.
I mean, I feel like this is another Sun Trials where, although
Sun Trials we said so much.
Well, I'll put it this way: did you like Fourth Wing more or less than Sun Trials?
More.
Okay, I'll say that overall, I think that would I say that this is the best book that's ever been written? Would I even say that this is necessarily a good book?
No.
Debatable. I will say that I liked it a lot. And if this is the direction that the genre is going,
I like it. Yeah.
I think it's a good start.
Like, despite all the like negative things I said, like we like dissected this book, but like I still think like overall it was new in the way it did some things.
It did innovate some stuff. Like I think we talked about in our very, very first episode when we're talking about a book where it's like there's certain check boxes that we tick.
It ticked a lot of them.
It ticked a lot of them, and it didn't tick enough red flags to make me dislike it.
Yeah.
I think that there's better romancy. I think that there's better fantasy.
Yeah, I think if I had gotten over the schooling part, like the part where they just kept going through classes or whatever, I think I would have read Iron Flame, and I probably would have enjoyed that much more.
Yeah. I will say that the people who are hating on Fourth Wing exclusively because it's a spicy book are sort of dissing on it without having read it, or exclusively because that there's romance in it and it's marketed towards women. I do think that that's extremely unfair. And I don't think that this is the book that defines the genre, but I also don't think that it makes it less of a fantasy book. I don't think it makes it less of a story simply because there is a focus on romance. I think that that's borderline misogyny a little bit there, but read it if you want to read it is all I'll say. Like,
yeah, I don't
I'm
think
not gonna go.
You're not gonna lose anything.
You're not
by
gonna lose
reading
anything.
it.
Like, honestly, if you can get past some of the more boring sections, I'd even say you'll have a good time. I'm not gonna go out of my way to recommend it to anybody, but I'm not gonna tell anyone not to read it.
Yeah.
So that's it for Fourth Wing. I am excited for the next one, so we'll see.
I'm excited to read the plot of the third one.
So our last segment is low expectations. Whether that's low expectations for us to do what we say we're going to watch or read, or low expectations for the trash media that we're potentially about to consume. What are you planning to check out this week?
What am I reading? Have I said it for the past maybe 3 or 4 episodes? Gideon the Ninth. This is why it's called a low expectation. There's absolutely 0 to very low expectations for me to actually read this book, but I do want to read Gideon the Ninth.
I have a couple of books on my TBR. I'm about to start reading the Halfling saga, so A Broken Blade. I have some high expectations, not knowing anything about it, just from the pure art on the cover. Makes me think assassin, makes me think, ooh, okay, could be interesting.
One must judge a book by its cover.
By its cover, exclusively by its cover, as I often do.
Oh, I am watching a K-drama. There we go.
Oh.
I have I'm about to finish a K-drama called Good Partner.
Ooh.
Really, 0 expectations. Not low expectations, 0 expectations is what it is.
Okay, I guess we'll hear about it in the next episode then. Well, thanks everybody for listening. You can follow us
on Instagram at Listen a Day Pod, and on Twitter at Listen a Day Pod. You can email us at listenadaypod@gmail.com. You can send us suggestions or like what you want to hear about, like topics for episodes. Oh, you can follow us on Storygraph and Goodreads.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.